Tensions continue to rise in the Persian Gulf. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is Skywatch TV News for April 29th of 2015. As I predicted yesterday morning, the information that we uploaded in our report yesterday was basically out of date by the time it made it to the internet. It was disclosed that the ship intercepted by the Iranian Navy yesterday was not an American vessel, but flagged to the Marshall Islands, the Maersk Tigris. As of this recording, the ship and its 34-man crew are still being held at the port of Bandar Abbas. However, it was disclosed this morning, just a couple hours before recording this program, by the U.S. Navy in an interview with CNN that Iran did intercept a U.S.-flagged vessel last Friday. A cargo ship, the Maersk Kensington, was circled by Iranian patrol boats, trailed for several miles before they finally backed away. What does this mean for tensions in the Persian Gulf, through which a very large percentage of the world's oil is carried? Don't know yet. But there's a game of chicken that appears to be being played out in this very narrow body of water. Here in the U.S., Yellowstone Park apparently suffering from a case of heartburn of biblical proportions. You probably know that there's a supervolcano, the Yellowstone caldera, located beneath the park. The crater from the last time this thing blew measures 25 miles by 40 miles. Well, researchers from Utah have discovered that there is a lot more magma underneath the park than was originally thought, enough to fill the Grand Canyon 11 times over. But they say the odds of an eruption in the next few thousand years is pretty small. The odds in any 1 year, about 1 in 70,000, roughly the same odds that you'll be hit by lightning sometime this year. But even so, in the recent past, 2003, temperatures just a few inches beneath the surface of the soil at Yellowstone Park got so hot, close to 200 degrees, that it actually boiled the sap inside some of the trees in the park. The Transportation Security Administration was out in force this past weekend. There was a confidential warning issued by the TSA about a potential ISIS attack on U.S. soil. So the TSA mobilized and deployed VIPER teams. Now, VIPER is a clever acronym that stands for Visible Intermodal Prevention and Response. Now, if you thought the Transportation Security Administration only screened passengers at airports, you'd be mistaken. I was. The VIPER teams are actually authorized under the Department of Homeland Security to detain and search travelers at railroad stations, bus stations, ferries, car tunnels, ports, subways, truckway stations, rest areas, and special events like sporting events. The 48-hour watch period ran from last Friday through Monday. There were no specifics on the type or target of the attack. Now we got something else we can blame on global warming: the economy. Government says the slow growth in the U.S. economy in the first quarter of 2015, just 0.2%, was due to the harsh winter. Too cold for us to get out and shop, apparently. However, in fact, the growth was the slowest since the first quarter of 2014, when the economy actually shrank by about 2%, and the government blamed that on a harsh winter as well. But of course, the reason that we have these harsh winters, according to climate change experts, is global warming. Apparently, the most recent theory is that strong, warm winds from the east blowing across the South Pacific have pushed warm water on the surface down below cold water, which wells up, cools the surface of the Pacific, and then the prevailing west to east winds blow into North America and give us a colder winter. So you see, colder weather is blamed on global warming. However, the harsh winter, it appears, actually helped the U.S. economy by boosting our spending on utilities. Second largest area of personal spending increase in the first quarter of 2015 was on fuel oil, natural gas, and electricity to keep from freezing. Beyond that, there's a disturbing number beneath the surface of the economic figures. Private inventories, the stockpiles of everything from widgets to washing machines, grew by almost $122 billion in the first quarter of 2015. That's the largest quarterly growth in private inventories in American history. Now, the economy in the first quarter, according to Department of Labor Statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics, only grew by $6.3 billion. So when you take out the widgets and washing machines that were produced and then put on shelves from the economic equation, the economy actually shrank by more than 2.5% in the first quarter. Private inventories have been growing since 2012, over $1 trillion worth. Sooner or later, we run out of space to store all this inventory. Those products will have to be sold or liquidated, at which time the law of supply and demand indicates the value of those goods decreases because there's an oversupply of widgets in the marketplace. That's called deflation, or to use a more ominous term, depression. And there's some numbers from overseas that are disturbing as well. This report just published by the Telegraph in the UK overnight. Government bonds in the Eurozone, the European Union, are being sold at negative rates of interest. Over 2 trillion euros worth, which is on the high side of 2 trillion US dollars, trading at a negative interest rate. This, according to the analyst, could put the world on course for the largest mass default in the world's history. There are also some reports in the Eurozone of banks making mortgage loans at negative rates of interest. When things turn upside down like that, indicators are not good. The message here, prepare, get your house in order. Government files in Britain reveal how the chief scientist at the Natural History Museum back in 1959 was fired for claiming to have seen the Loch Ness Monster. Dr. Dennis Tucker in 1959 said that he thought he'd seen what must have been an elasmosaurus, a plesiosaur from the Cretaceous period, while on a visit to Loch Ness. He was promptly fired. His legal battle to recover his job is documented in papers just made available to the public for the first time in over 50 years. And until his death 5 years ago in France, Dr. Tucker believed he was the victim of a conspiracy to keep him quiet, and it appears that he was correct. Also from the UK, a scientist there thinks he's figured out how to double his lifespan. Dr. Alex Zhevorenkov believes he can live to the age of 150 with a pretty strict regimen of physical exercise and dietary supplements. He also plans to avoid marriage, children, and material assets in his pursuit of extreme longevity. He may not live to 150, but by enjoying life half as much as the rest of us, it'll feel twice as long. If you missed our program last night on the Christian Television Network, part 3 of our 5-part series On the Path of the Immortals, you can see that beginning tomorrow morning at skywatchtv.com. The interview with Chris Putnam and Tom Horn, co-authors of the forthcoming book On the Path of the Immortals, as with all of our programs, archived at skywatchtv.com and our official YouTube channel. If you prefer, like to see it on the big screen, you can also add our Roku channel to your account, and instructions on how to do that available at skywatchtv.com/Roku. We appreciate your support as we seek to get the word out, analysis of news, events through a prophetic lens that you don't find many other places on the internet or on television. And your support is necessary, helpful to reaching that goal. For your gift of any size, we'd like you to have this hardback copy on spiritual warfare, the book Unseen by Dr. Jack Graham, 2-time president of the Southern Baptist Convention, and he will be prominent in the National Day of Prayer coming up the first week of May. Again, for your gift of any size to Skywatch TV, we'll send this book to you at no charge whatsoever. Instructions on how to send your gift to Skywatch TV available at skywatchtv.com. We hope you keep watching. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is Skywatch TV.